Alrighty, let's get started, Chris.
Sweet. Well, for starters, thank you all for joining us. Happy to be back at another Tabnine Office Hours session. Just to kick things off, some introductions. I'll go first. My name is Chris Good. I'm a product marketing manager here at Tabnine. And I'll let Amaya introduce himself as well.
Hey everyone, my name is Amaya Deshmukh. I'm head of marketing programs at Tabnine. I'm excited to spend some time with you all today.
Awesome. So as far as the agenda goes, we're going to be covering a lot today. So here's what you can expect to learn in this session. Starting with how to accelerate your entire SDLC with Tabnine, how Tabnine writes code like an engineer on your team, how to maintain complete privacy over your code and data, how to maintain complete protection as well from IP issues and legal liability. We'll also be doing a live demo of an application build, working through Jira issues all the way through code review, and then we'll cap things off with a live Q&A session. So for AI code assistants like Tabnine, I think it's sort of important to take a step back and understand the real business impact that they're delivering. They're proven to have a significant impact on developer productivity, engineering velocity, and employee satisfaction. And here's just a few statistics that we can share from independent studies we've read. One, AI reduces developer task time by up to 30% for code refactoring, 45% for code generation, and 50% for documentation. Two, task completion by developers went up by as much as 15% for medium complexity tasks and up by 30% for high complexity tasks. Developers reported being happier, and their work went up from 45% without AI to an 88% with AI, with a similar 2x increase in the ability to focus on more meaningful work. And then one independent survey of IT pros estimated that they could save more than 5 hours per week by using AI to complete repetitive tasks. And that equates to roughly about 15K, $1,000 worth of time per IT worker annually. And based on our measures, that is a very low estimate of the value actually derived. So with all of this, it's no surprise that even one survey reported that 78% of companies expect to use generative AI for software development in the next 3 to 5 years. So the benefits to engineering teams are proving to be abundantly clear, right? But which AI coding assistant is the best for your team, right? So that's where Tabnine comes in. And Tabnine boosts code quality and developer happiness by automating the workflow through AI tools. Tabnine helps development teams of every size use AI to accelerate the software development process without sacrificing privacy and security. So Tabnine boosts engineering velocity, code quality, and developer happiness by automating the coding workflow through AI tools customized to your team. So one, we've pioneered generative AI for software development, and we are the originators of the AI code assistant category, launching our first product in 2018. Now Tabnine is used by over 1 million developers across thousands of companies in very highly regulated industries. And Tabnine also works with more than 600 languages and frameworks and supports all of the most popular IDEs. And we'll touch on those here shortly. So what exactly is an AI code assistant? An AI code assistant is an agent that lives alongside you as you move throughout the software development process, right? It's powered by generative AI infrastructure, and it's aware of your project and code base. An AI code assistant can take your plain language prompts and use that to explain code, to generate code, to refactor or fix code, answer general coding questions, or help coach you on specific languages or frameworks, as well as autonomously generate documentation and tests. And the capability of these AI assistants continue to grow, right? Taking on more and more of the software development process and becoming more and more accurate and more autonomous in their work. So think of an AI code assistant as a deeply experienced, highly trained software developers sitting alongside you to help you be more successful with your everyday tasks. But unlike other coding assistants, Tabnine is the AI code assistant that you control. And what do we mean by that? For one, it's private. You choose where and how to deploy Tabnine to maximize control over your intellectual property. And you can rest easy knowing that Tabnine never stores or shares your company's code. Two, it's personalized. Tabnine delivers an optimized experience for each development team, meaning it's context aware and it can be tuned to recommend based on your standards. You can also create a bespoke model trained on your specific code bases. And the third point is it's protected. Tabnine's built with enterprise-grade security and compliance at its core. And we offer both indemnification and models trained exclusively on open source code with permissive licenses to avoid any risk of IP liabilities. And in regard to indemnification, using Tabnine's models doesn't expose you to the risk of intellectual property infringement, but we support Tabnine Enterprise customers with the added protection of indemnification. So when it comes to choosing your favorite IDE, we'll meet you where you're comfortable, right? From VS Code, Visual Studio, Eclipse, the entire JetBrains family. And then when we look at language support and framework support, Tabnine supports the most popular languages, libraries, frameworks as well, right? Over roughly 600 languages and frameworks are supported currently with an ever-growing list. So now I'm going to hand it over to Ameya, who will cover these next sections. Feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Chris. So quick question from Ahmad. Can Tabnine also generate MATLAB code? So Ahmad, there's two ways to use Tabnine, which we'll show you in the demo. There is inline code completions for whole lines, full functions, code blocks. And there are our AI chat agents that help you with every step of the software development lifecycle. The inline code completions run off of the Tabnine protected model, which is a proprietary model that we've developed. And that model in particular is not super strong at MATLAB. However, what we could do for customers such as yourself that are writing in languages that are poorly documented in open source code is if you have a code base of MATLAB code, we can fine tune and train the model on that code and thus enable the code completions for MATLAB. Secondly, if you're using Tabnine Chat, we offer model flexibility. So Tabnine Chat comes pre-built with all of the industry's leading LLM providers, and you can use that. And essentially, we add on LLM agnostic enhancements to the underlying model. And those are our AI agents and personalization capabilities, which I'll get to in a couple of slides here. And through that, you'll be able to execute MATLAB software development tasks using Tabnine effectively. Another question, Digital Alchemist, wonderful name, by the way. I love that that's your LinkedIn profile name. What about Tabnine evaluating the entire code base? Yeah, so as I'll get to in a couple of slides here, Tabnine offers 4 layers of progressive personalization. The second level of that is code-based integration and code-based connection, through which we use retrieval augmented generation to index and read through your code base. We support connecting into Bitbucket, GitLab, and GitHub, but really any Git-based repo. We also have a couple of customers with more unusual repository structures that we accommodate as well. And through that, Tabnine's able to draw in sorry, apologies, comment here. Through that, Tabnine's able to evaluate your entire code base, as you asked. Question from Ralph Stam. Plugin for Qt Creator. I'm not aware of that IDE. If it's a VS Code IDE, VS Code based, then it's possible that we could support it at some point in the future, but I'll add that as a ticket for our production queue to evaluate supporting Qt Creator if we get enough asks about it. And then question from Mike Mason. Is it better or worse for these languages, and how do you know? So if you go to our docs pages, you'll see a page that lists out the supported languages for the Tabnine protected model, which is one of the models that we offer. And we have an internal team. I call them our Tabnine Labs team, but they're our data engineering team and everyone that's working on our models. And they're continually running various tests on all of our Tabnine protected models, as well as the third-party models that we offer. And you'll notice that each of the third-party models we offer can differ in their terms of support and efficacy for various languages. But for specifically the Tabnine protected V2 model, which I'll get to in a moment here, as well as articulate when and why you might want to use that as opposed to other LLMs that are available to you inside Tabnine. We've documented out the level of language support for all the languages listed here on our docs page. So I'll send you a link to that shortly. Oh, there you go. Chris has dropped it in. That is visible right here. So docs.tabnine.com. Just visit that page and you'll learn more about what we support for the Tabnine protected model. Rodrigo Santos, question about the previous slide. When we use models that are not from Tabnine, do we still have the guarantee of privacy over the code? Fantastic question. So when you use third-party models, your code privacy is subject to the regulations and governance and policies of those third-party model providers. However, all of the enhancements that we do in terms of personalization on those models do remain private and protected in that sense. So we also provide guidance around that in the model switching UI, which Chris will show you in the slide and demo on that subject. But essentially, if you're on Tabnine Enterprise, you can set administrative control access and select the models that meet your organization's privacy, performance, and protection needs, and only make those available to your users. And then they'll be able to switch between them in real time in the IDE itself. Comment from It's Hexen. VB6 question mark. Unfortunately, I'm not quite sure what you're referring to there.
Oh, Visual Basic. We do support VB. Right now, primarily, I believe chat support, not really code completions. VB6, not exactly sure, but we can take a pending on that. But we do support VB. It is one of the supported languages in, at least, in the Tabnine protected model.
Question from Ali Asrabi. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly there. Ali, is your solution FedRAMP and ready for government organizations? So for government organizations, we run through Carahsoft, which is a partner vendor that can support you for acquiring Tabnine and installing Tabnine there. We do not have the full FedRAMP certification completed. However, we are ISO 9002 certified, as well as a whole bunch of other security regulations and certifications, as well covered in my slide. And while I can't share the specific organizations that are using Tabnine today, we have a couple thousand engineers at one of the most secure organizations in the federal government using us for software engineering for critical infrastructure projects, and are in use by multiple government organizations around the world, some in Europe and some in Israel as well. And finally, a large part of our customer base is in highly regulated and privacy conscious industries. And you'll find out a bit more about why they choose us in subsequent parts of this demo. So I'm going to take a pause here on answering questions and get on over into presentation. So how to accelerate your SDLC with Tabnine. So Tabnine's AI coding assistant makes analyzing, creating, and improving your code at every stage of the software development lifecycle faster and easier. And we facilitate this in two ways. Our AI agents and in IDE chat help you with planning, creation, testing, deployment, and more. So here's a visual I like to show of the entire software development lifecycle as we present it. The important thing to know here is that Tabnine keeps your developers in flow. So we're letting them execute every step of your SDLC without having to leave your IDE. And there's many ways to interact with Tabnine, which we'll show you in the demo. But at a high level, there's two ways to accelerate your SDLC with Tabnine: code completions and interacting with a set of AI chat agents to execute specific tasks. So starting from the left with the plan, you can kick off with our Tabnine Code Explorer agent, and that really helps developers on-ramp onto a new project faster. So what this agent does is it's going to provide a comprehensive overview of key project elements. That includes runnable scripts, dependencies, as well as overall structure. And rather than inundating you with an avalanche of information, the Code Explorer agent really acts as a knowledgeable guide. So it's going to present essential details and offer pathways for further exploration. Furthermore, it also suggests follow-up questions that are tailored to the user's context or code base and the task at hand. And the AI agent empowers developers to chart their own course through the project's intricacies. Next, now that you've understood the project, moving on into create, you can use Tabnine chat here. So just use natural language to generate code based on your design specs. And the chat agent can create software components, features, functionality, and a whole lot more. And what this does is it generates code by understanding the context of your project, of your repositories, and providing relevant code blocks as well through that. You can also generate code, of course, through Tabnine's code completions model. And we also have released a new set of AI agents for Jira. So you can integrate Tabnine with Jira and execute and implement specific Jira issues that have been assigned to you, as well as validate code against requirements detailed in Jira issues. So Tabnine is able to intake context from your Jira issues that you're working on and kind of combine that all with the local context awareness in the IDE, as well as code-based awareness once you've integrated Tabnine with your code base. Moving on into testing code, here we've created the Tabnine test agent. And what you can use this agent to do is significantly enhance your test coverage by automating the creation and implementation of comprehensive test plans. So it creates these plans and they have detailed test cases for functions, methods, and you can use it on an existing test file, or you can ask Tabnine to create a new one. And this agent is really going to automatically create test cases that cover a wide variety of testing scenarios. And each test case is going to include a short description in plain English. And all you have to do from there is use Tabnine to select and ask it to implement the ones you want to deploy. Moving on into fixing code, Tabnine makes this a breeze. You can ask Tabnine to find all the errors and bugs in your code for you and ask it to recommend fixes. You can also use some other ways of interacting with it, such as our code lens buttons, in case you want to direct it to fix code on a specific code block. That is just a simple button click away. Moving on into documentation. We have a documentation agent, of course, and you can use that to create docs, and that includes formal documentation of classes and functions for API guides, comments, and inline docs. And what Tabnine is going to do that's kind of interesting here is, let's say you have documentation already in your code and you're writing Java code, and perhaps it's in Java docs format. It's going to recognize that you're using that formatting through the local context awareness, and it's going to generate documentation that matches your doc formatting style automatically through its personalization engine. And of course, it's taking in local context and code-based context here as well. So the docs are entirely relevant and tailored to the code that you're working on at the current moment. And let's say you run into a legacy code from another developer, or it's code written in a language you're unfamiliar with, or perhaps it's just a code block that you wrote yourself and just been away from for too long. Well, you can just use the explain code agent here, and Tabnine will explain exactly how that piece of code works and offer you some insights. Finally, as you're moving on into maintenance, where I know a lot of us spend our time today as developers, all you have to do here is provide instructions in natural language into Tabnine chat, and Tabnine can help change code, fix bugs, add functionality, suggest performance improvements, And you can also use this here to refactor and translate existing code. So how does Tabnine write code like a fully onboarded member of your team? So taking a step back here and thinking about AI coding assistants broadly, using an AI code assistant that isn't sufficiently aware of your existing code base and your coding standards, we like to say it's like hiring a well-trained software engineer off the street. Helpful and well-intentioned, but likely to create code that needs to be modified to fit your application. And the reason that you'll run into this with AI coding assistants that are generic and not personalized to you is that because the LLMs that underpin every generative AI tool inherently lack your context and understanding. And in software development, if the LLM doesn't understand the distinctive patterns and the specific approaches that your company takes, the code recommendations it generates are going to be accurate but generic. And that increases the likelihood that while the code meets the requirements, it'll need to be modified, sometimes significantly, in order to be accepted into your code base. But I like to say that context changes everything. And really, our personalization engine that we've built is what enables Tabnine to take the underlying LLM, add on that personalization, add on the AI agents, and deliver more relevant, higher quality coding recommendations. And you'll find that when you layer in the right level of context, including local files, your code bases, and relevant non-code sources of information like Jira, for example, working with Tabnine starts to feel like working with a senior engineer with the years of experience in your company that's sitting alongside each and every one of your developers, assisting them with their software development tasks. So how does personalization really work here at Tabnine? Well, we use progressive personalization here, and that optimizes our AI coding assistant and how it works for your team. And the result from this personalization is that it makes sure that Tabnine generates recommendations that are relevant to your apps and approach and fit your existing patterns and standards. And we achieve this for you through 4 levels of optimization: context, context, connection, coaching, and customization. So it all starts with context awareness inside the IDE. So when you toggle on the workspace indexing button in Tabnine chat, Tabnine becomes aware of any code open in your IDE around a given project, and it starts to use that insight to guide how it responds. And when Tabnine indexes the workspace, what it's doing is it's accessing locally available data in your developers' IDEs. And that includes things like variable types used by the developer near the completion point in the code, comments they've added, open files they've interacted with, imported packages and libraries, and open projects. And additionally, you can even guide Tabnine to prioritize more specific parts of your code for context by using mentions, which is simply using the @ symbol to tag unopened files, classes, or methods directly into Tabnine chat as part of your prompting. The next level here is connection to your code and knowledge bases. So if you're a Tabnine enterprise user, you can have your administrator connect Tabnine to organizational sources of information. That includes code repositories, design documents, Jira tickets, and much more coming soon. And what this does is significantly increases the relevance of code recommendations, explanations, generated tests, and documentation. And Jira connection is now available, and as well as global code base awareness. The third level here is coaching based on your standards. So what you could do here is your engineering team can provide Tabnine with explicit steering and constraints that dictate how it should behave in specific situations. And this enables the enforcement of specific standards and guidelines for any generated code, tests, or documentation. And the way we facilitate this today is through our code review agent. So you will be able to provide that code review agent with a list of rules in plain language. We'll translate those rules and add on additional enhancements to them with good and bad examples of code that meet those rules. And what Tabnine will then do is prioritize the rules by level of severity. And it will, when you're in code review, it will read through the code, flag instances where code does not meet those rules, and offer suggestions and fixes to get the code ready to be shipped into your production. So with the code review agent, what you're really going to be able to do is significantly increase the quality and security of your code. And of course, it comes pre-built with a bunch of rules and code review standards and we're continually adding more and more on into that code review agent. And it's completely configurable and customizable to what you're specifically looking to achieve inside your code review process for every language, library, framework, what have you. Finally, the fourth level of personalization that's available is customization and fine-tuning of the underlying model. And this applies to our Tabnine code completions model. So for maximum personalization of Tabnine in your organization, we can create fine-tuned or custom models for a domain-specific language or your organization-specific code bases. And what this effort does is creates a unique model that fine-tunes our universal model with your own data and code. And achieving this does require that your organization curate sufficient amounts of high-quality training data. And when this is really warranted is when you want Tabnine to know domain-specific knowledge that's private to your organization, or all of your projects use internal libraries and infrastructure, and you have about 3 million lines of code that follow those libraries and infrastructure. And of course, with all of these personalization enhancements that we do, the personalization is private to your organization. It's not used to train our models or data, and it's never shared with third parties. It's a good segue into how Tabnine lets you maintain complete privacy over your code and data. So your data security is very, very important to us. So when you're using Tabnine, I want you to know that your code always remains private and safe. And today we're trusted by millions of developers and thousands of organizations worldwide from highly secure and regulated industries to count on us to meet their data protection and data security needs. So to support that, we've developed a comprehensive set of practices and policies that help ensure your data is secure. So here's how we ensure total code privacy and zero data retention. So first, we guarantee zero data retention, and your code and usage data is never stored and it's never shared with third parties. We also offer proven enterprise-grade security that meets key industry standards that include SOC 2, ISO 9001, GDPR, as well as other regulatory requirements. You can review these yourself as well as see our pen test reports and other security reports by visiting our Trust Center. It's trust.tabnine.com, I believe. I'll drop a link in our chat here shortly with link to that so you can access it. And finally, when you're using Tabnine, you stay in control of your IP. So we do not exploit access to your code or user data, and we never use your code, your data, or your behaviors to feed our general models. So of course, with Tabnine being the AI coding assistant that's personalized to you, we also personalize to the way that you want to deploy. So there's three options for you to choose where and how to deploy Tabnine. The first is secure SaaS, and this type of deployment is available for starter, pro, and enterprise customers. In this case, the solution is hosted, managed, and monitored by Tabnine. It's frequently updated, and we're committed to maintaining the highest levels of security and privacy for our clients here. So with our SaaS deployment, we've implemented an end-to-end encryption system to ensure that communication between our clients' users and our servers remains completely secure. Our security team also continuously monitors for vulnerabilities and conducts regular audits to ensure our security infrastructure is up to the latest and greatest standards. And this really takes care of making sure that your data is being handled with the utmost care and security. Now, a lot of our enterprise customers are interested in private installations or self-hosted deployments, and there's three options rather for you here. The first is VPC. And in the VPC setup, the Tabnine cluster would be a Kubernetes hosted unit on your virtual private cloud. And we support GCP, AWS, Azure, and a handful of other cloud providers here. And with this, we do not have access to your environment, and we do periodic software updates in a controlled way. We also give you the option of deploying Tabnine Enterprise on premises. Similarly, in this installation setup, the Tabnine cluster is going to be a Kubernetes cluster, but instead it'll be hosted on your servers on your private network. And again, we will not have access to your environment here and do periodic software updates in a controlled fashion, which our solution engineering team can guide you through the details on that should you have any questions. And finally, for the customer set that has extremely stringent privacy requirements, we also offer a fully air-gapped private installation. So you can deploy Tabnine in a completely air-gapped environment. So last thing here on our differentiation, you get the full benefits of AI without the legal risk with Tabnine. So with AI copyright law still unsettled and the potential IP liability of AI injecting unlicensed code into your code base, you might be worried about the possible legal ramifications of adopting generative AI. But with Tab9, you do not have to worry about that. So our Tab9 protected model is exclusively trained on permissively licensed code, which completely frees you from legal risk. And this is how we give you that total protection from IP liability. So starting with our Tab9 protected model set, these are state-of-the-art and permissive open source LLMs. And these models are really the result of our involvement in the open source community. We're regular contributors to many of the open source LLM projects, and this gives us an advantage when selecting the best ones out there. So our clients really trust us to curate every option in the market for them. And we assure you that each time we update the Tab9 Universal model, the Tab9 Protected model, it includes the latest and greatest. And being good open source citizens also allows us to have our proprietary add-ons ready for any model. So our models are enhancements, are entirely model agnostic. So with the Tab9 Protected model, we only use open source code with permissive licenses. And those licenses are listed on the slide, as you can see there. This list is also publicly available and regularly updated in our trust center. And I can guarantee you that at the time of training our Tab9 protected model, the licenses used only belong to the list that's documented in our trust center. So we never train Tab9 protected on data that isn't permissive, and that ensures that our clients aren't at risk. Finally, just to give you additional peace of mind, we give you added protection through indemnification. So again, by nature, using Tab9 protected models doesn't expose you to the risk of IP infringement, but we still support Tab9 enterprise customers with the added protection of indemnification. So if your posture in regards to IP liability and protection and your risk tolerance for that is very low, we recommend just using the Tab9 protected model exclusively. However, if that isn't such an area of concern for your organization, we do also offer a host of third-party LLMs that you can select through our searchable models capability, which gives you complete flexibility. So as I've stated before, we offer our proprietary models for Tab9 chat and Tab9 code completions. These are private and hosted by Tab9 and called Tab9 protected. But I'd like you to know that you also have the option of using third-party models as well as any models that you may already have API endpoints for, or perhaps models that you've developed in-house and would like to connect into Tab9. But we really give you the insight that you need to choose. So again, you can choose which chat model to use, and on Tab9 Enterprise, admins can control and specify the set of models that you're going to make available to your organization. And as you're making this decision, there's three things you want to think about, right? So first is performance, and that's, does the set of models I'm selecting give me accurate and relevant results for the programming languages and frameworks that my engineers are going to be working in right now? The second consideration is privacy. So does the model store your code or use your data? Could that code or data be shared with third parties? And is your code being used to train their model? The third is protection. So you want to think about what code was the model trained on? Is it all legally licensed from the author? And will you create risks for your business by accepting generated code from a model trained on unlicensed repositories? Now, important to note here that if you're deploying Tab9 VPC, self-hosted, on-prem, or air-gapped, that some of these considerations are probably no longer important or relevant, because if you're deployed on-prem, of course, your data is never leaving your own infrastructure. So you can really use any model that you like, that you have also an API endpoint or deployed into your on-prem infrastructure there. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Chris now for a demo of the application build, where we'll show you how to go all the way from Jira issue all the way through code review in less than 30 minutes by using Tab9. Before I do that, let me just check in and make sure there weren't additional questions in the chat. And
there's one I think we might want to address before we move forward, which is the LinkedIn users is privacy the same for all Tab9 license tiers?
Is privacy the same for all Tabnine licensed tiers? Yes. Yes. So we never use your data to train train our universal model. And if you're deploying Tabnine through our SaaS deployment, which is what you'll be doing if you're on Tabnine Basic or Tabnine Pro, the way that we handle data privacy and zero data retention is through ephemeral processing. So any insight and intent that we need to consume to process your request is used and then immediately deleted as soon as we've given you back your response. So I think this is in contrast to some other third-party providers of LLMs that retain your data for, I think, for example, OpenAI or GPT models will retain data for about 25 or 29 days before deleting. And of course, if you're using any of the third-party models that we offer through the switchable models capability, your data retention is subject to the standards and policies that those model providers have implemented. So Anthropic, Cohere, Mistral, OpenAI, etc. But if you have further questions about that, we're happy to explore that further with you in another call. Got a question here from Ali. Are there any plans to expand support to similar tools like ADO in addition to Jira? We have additional tools on our roadmap, so stay tuned, and we'll announce that shortly as time goes on. And question from Salman: do you plan to also show a demo of your tool? Yes, we do, and let's just hop right into that after I get through these two questions from Ali. Regarding your air gap solution, wouldn't it require costly NVIDIA GPUs? If so, are there any plans to use government clouds hosted by Tabnine to do the same? Yeah, so if you're deploying an air gap solution, you do require GPUs. You may not always need extremely expensive NVIDIA GPUs to do this. It really depends on what the set of LLMs are that you want to use on your air gapped deployment. And we'll be doing a Tabnine Live on this exact subject later in the year to explore this further. And then another question from Ali: did I understand correctly that your AI model, even in an air-gapped environment, will learn from our code base and development patterns to provide more targeted and precise answers? Yes, spot on, correct. So in an air-gapped deployment, your IDs and all your developers will be working in an air-gapped deployment, and as long as your code bases are also accessible in your air-gapped deployment, we can do all of our personalization add-ons and capabilities on the air-gapped installation of Tabnine. So you did understand that correctly. All right, moving on into the application build. Take it away, Chris. Chris, I think you are muted on your mic.
There we go. There we go. Can you hear me now? Perfect. Awesome. Let's start off. Okay. So what we're going to do here first is go over the Tabnine UI that folks are going to be interacting with, and sort of each of the agents you'll find along the way. So I'm going to, I'm currently in VS Code. That's my IDE of choice, but as we said earlier, we support the JetBrains family and VS Studio as well, Eclipse and a few others. So we'll navigate over here to the Tabnine logo, and that will start the Tabnine AI chat. And when you click the chat agent here, you'll see that at the bottom, there will be an area for you can use everyday conversational natural language to type in prompts, queries. You can additionally, you'll see these buttons here at the top. And what we did is build these agents to do more of the heavy lifting for end users to reduce prompt engineering. So each of these buttons launch different agents, like, for example, our Explore code base, which we'll show here in a second. Great for understanding or onboarding into new projects. Next up, we'll see this beaker icon here. Well, you know what? Excuse me. Let me backtrack. We've been talking about switchable models a lot. Now, this is where you'll see here that instantaneously. You can go switching between model and model. Has to be from a new conversation, but it is incredibly quick. And this is where you'll be able to rotate between LLMs within the Tabnine AI chat. So next to this chat icon, you'll find a beaker. And this is where you'll be able to generate comprehensive test plans for your code, which we'll also get to later here in a second. Next to the beaker is our settings. So this is where you'll be able to toggle your inline chat completions. So as you type within that prompt bar that we saw here on the bottom, it will recognize your intent and autocomplete, as well as being able to create custom commands and connect to Jira. I'm already connected, as you can see here, but it is a 2-click process. Very, very easy and takes about 30 seconds. So let's go back over here to chat. One other piece we just want to talk about is workspace indexing. So this is where you are able to toggle workspace indexing. And again, Tabnine chat will consider your project, current file, packages, etc. as context for these chat responses. So that's the Tabnine AI chat. The next spot you'll see Tabnine appear in the UI, where you'll interact with Tabnine, is as you type. So perfect. Didn't even have to type anything yet. You'll see that this is our auto completions or our code completions. As you're typing in the IDE, Tabnine will recognize and generate contextually relevant code recommendations. It's automatically going to recognize your intent of your writing. So if you're writing a test, it will auto-complete the test. If you're writing, in this case, rules for your CLI program, this password generator, it's going to recognize that this is what I want to do and suggest this next rule here, speeding up that flow. The next place I want to cover where you'll see Tabnine is in the top of each of these code blocks here, right? So as you're scrolling through the code here, you'll see Tabnine here. At the top of each block, that is our Tabnine code lens. So it's a quick action functionality that's similar flow or functionality that you'll see here, but allowing folks to stay more within their flow state, right? So giving you the ability to edit, test, explain, document, ask, and if there is any sort of error in this code or in this code block, it would give you the option to fix as well. And then the last piece we're going to touch here on Tabnine UI will be the quick commands, right, or inline actions. So you'll see here that for MacBooks, it's a Command I that launches this bar here. That's where you'll find quick commands like fix code, document code, explain code, and code explorer. You'll also be able to switch your model actively between, within this menu bar as well.
Quick question from Andrew. Can we specify project-specific or role prompt that specifies things like coding standards? So two ways to do this, Andrew. One would be through a custom command for specific prompts that you want to create in Tabnine. The other way to do that is for specification of coding standards would be through inputting rules into our code review agent, which Chris will show you what the UI for that looks like as we progress further into this demo. And then question from Adria, do you have a representative agent or partner in Spain? Yes, we do. I will have someone reach out via email to you after this Tabnine Office Hours session to provide more information about that.
Perfect. Okie dokie. So we've went over the UI. Let's go through a usual cycle for a software developer, right? Going through each phase of the SDLC, starting with plan. So for this first stage, as a developer, it's incredibly important to gain an understanding of the project, what the application does, etc. So there's two ways of doing that. We're going to be using the Code Explorer agent, and that's that built-in quick action within the Tabnine chat, right? That users can invoke here, or you could even type it in within the natural the prompt bar here at the bottom. And what this is going to do is Tabnine chat will return a high-level summary of the project's key elements, runnable scripts, key dependencies, overall structure. And then in addition to the summary, it's also going to suggest possible follow-up questions about the summary, right? Allowing the developer to dive further deeper into the relevant information for their current task, right? So using this, you'll see that users will be able to onboard into a new project or a new team much faster while reducing the load on their experienced colleagues, who I don't want to paint anyone in a bad light, right? But it's folks might end up resenting that, right? You're an experienced dev, you're taking him or them away from their work and making them onboard a junior dev. It might not be everyone's favorite job, right? So this really speeds up and empowers and enables all of these folks to be able to gain a much better holistic understanding of what they're working in. So at this point, we know that it is a password generator CLI program, right? And we know what's in each file. We know how it ties together. Let's continue into this next phase of the SDLC, which is going to be to create, right? So earlier in the session, we briefly talked about our Jira agents, and there's two, right? We have our implementation and then our validation agents. And we've already connected Tabnine to Jira. However, like I said earlier, it takes 2 clicks and 30 seconds if you haven't done it yet. So we will navigate over to Jira here, and we'll see what's in my queue today. And there's 5 tickets I have assigned to me, right? So we're going to go back here. I'm going to start we'll start a new conversation to keep things clean. And what I'm going to do is there's 2 ways to initialize Jira within the Tabnine AI chat. You can type it in, or you can, click this Jira logo here, and it'll populate my issues, right? So what we're going to do is add more useful, useful tips. That's MAR 83. We're going to say implement this ticket. Now it is important when I did show this drop down here, it's only showing the tickets that are, this is generating, doesn't like to show that whenever it's actually generating code. So I need to cool my jets for a second here. Perfect. Okay, so this drop down here for Jira, it's important to acknowledge that you're not going to see everyone's tickets on your team, right? I'm only going to see the specific tickets that are assigned to the user, myself, but the user that is validated or integrated with Jira. So the Tabnine user and their Jira Jira profile, you're only going to see the tickets that are assigned to them. So no worry about seeing other team members' tickets and anything like that. So we have this here. We're going to hit apply. Let's see here. We're just going to copy. This is our new area. Let's put this in here. Perfect. Now what we can do is go back over to our Jira validation agent this time, still initializing them the same way, but we'll reference this ticket again, and we'll say validate this ticket.
So what Tabnine's doing here is when you're implementing, it is taking in context from the ticket, then taking in all of Chris's workspace context here. He's also connected to a code repository, I believe a GitLab or Bitbucket repo here, with additional code that's relevant to this password generator. And it's generating code that fits into the context of that and solves the Jira ticket. And now that we've asked it to validate, it's looking at the requirements outlined in the Jira issue and basically spitting back here how the code that it's generated matches those requirements that were detailed in the Jira issue.
Correct. And then it also gives you, it'll sometimes give you further, if you want to have more assurance, right? Or manually validate it yourself. It'll give you options for tests, which is pretty cool. So
question from Andrea here, is the Jira integration working for both SaaS and on-premises installations? Yes, it is available on all of our product tiers and installation formats.
Perfect. Okay. So I can see here, so we've created new functionality, but I noticed that there's some errors in my code, which I don't like. So we can ask Tabnine chat, we can reference this, let's say find, or what are the errors in my app generator.java file. And this will be the next phase, right? Fixing, right? So we've added new functionality, but we know that there's errors in the code. So we're going to dive into these and see what they are. And hopefully they're nothing too embarrassing. Okay, it's just a couple misspellings at the top here. So let's reference console class. Okay. So what we can do now that we've found them is we're just going to use the Tabnine code lens.
So the code lens is really great anytime you want to make edits to specific blocks of code. Rather than having to reference that specific code block, you can just click the code lens button above the code block and have Tabnine fix and implement the fixes in your code directly into your file.
Yeah, and that was, a 5-10 second process, right? So now we fixed the code. We have no more errors on this file. We can move on to testing, right? So there's a few ways that I think you maybe have seen so far. If you're watching closely, you'll see that there's a test button here within the code lens. There is also the ability to generate tests from Tabnine chat. But in this case, we're going to be using the test agent. So what we'll do is we're going to generate a test plan for this code. And we do not have, whoops. Not sure what just happened there. Okay. We're going to command all. We do not have a test file. If you did, you'd be able to browse and find it here. But in our case, we do not have one, so we're going to create one. Now, what you'll see is notice that the test agent is creating a comprehensive test plan with detailed test cases for functions and methods, right? It'll automatically generate test cases covering a wide variety of tests and testing scenarios. And you can see that within each of these, it'll give a short description in plain English, right? Giving you an idea of what the suggested test is. Of course, starting with a baseline. Now, these aren't firm, right? This is all customizable. So it'll generate this test, but let's say that you would like to make modifications. You can easily do that here. It'll generate a new rendition of this test, which you can insert. But let's say you like it. We'll insert this one here. We'll go here and insert another one here. And let's just pick this. Should create a password with a mix of all characters. There we go. Perfect. So not only can you create a testing plan, a comprehensive one, right? Everything from unit testing to pressure testing and everything in between. But I also know that sometimes creating tests is it's a more personal piece, right? So we also see folks taking their test plans, coming into Tabnine, and actually validating it, right? So once they have their comprehensive test plan, they can, or they've created one on their own, they can ask the Tabnine chat to validate that what they have here is a full comprehensive plan and it covers all of their bases. So then let's move on to the next piece of the SDLC, right? We've created new code. We've created tests that simulate real world scenarios. The next step is going to be to create documentation, right? Whether it's sometimes yourself coming back after a long period of time of looking at code, or you're having a coworker help you out. It's really important to have proper documentation, for it to be maintainable and manageable, but B, it just makes for a much better user experience, best practice, right? So what we'll do here is we're going to go to the code lens, and we just clicked documentation, or yep, perfect. So what it'll do is it generates documentation for me inline, but in this case, it's above my my code block, and everyone has their preferences. Sometimes I like it this way, other times I do not. So we can click refine here, and you can refine this request, right? So we'll say generate the documentation to the right of each line.
And this refine functionality isn't limited to the documentation agent in the code lens. You can use this with all of the different buttons that we have in the code block here.
Sweet. And now it's all over on the right-hand side. Personal preference, but it makes it so much easier than having to tab out or space out, whichever you prefer, to make it in unison here on the right-hand side. Really speeds things up. And again, this was just one block of code, but you don't have limits, right? If you want to tackle a whole file, you can do that as well. So that's, for me personally, as someone who doesn't love to document code, it's a huge win in my book. Now, the next piece that we're going to cover is maintaining, right?
So, sorry, Chris, just pause you there for a second. Another question from Adria. Do you think that Tabnine can be used to generate end-to-end tests and then run them in tools like Cypress? So, Adria, I'm not actually familiar with Cypress specifically, but you could use Tabnine to generate comprehensive testing plans. And then if you find that it's missed anything or you want to add on additional tests, those tests are just a chat conversation away from being implemented into your testing plan. Chris, are you familiar with Cypress specifically?
Yeah, not in a sense where I feel like an expert on it, but I know that it's a testing framework for JavaScript, right? So it's testing modern web applications. So we can circle back on that one. I'm not personally very experienced with that, but we can look into that and get back to you.
Yeah, Adrian, I think it's one of those questions that our solution engineering team will be able to answer better for you. So we'll circle back for you on that, for specifically running it in Cypress.
Yeah. So this last, or second to last phase, maintaining, right? You're going to want to continuously improve your applications. And Tabnine can be a really, really, really good source of ideas for you to do that. So what we'll do here is we're going to ask chat to give me ideas to, let's see here. Well, first let's just start it off. Generate, we asked for 10 new ideas to make, there we go, make it more friendly, user-friendly, and secure. And what it's going to do is, of course, be incredibly positive. One of my favorite parts of Claude. Certainly, I can help you out. But it'll generate 10 ideas as well as the code that goes along with them. Now, the cool part about this is you can quickly go through and hit apply. and insert these, instantly changing that functionality. As quick as you generated them, you can as quick implement them. But again, if you don't follow that flow, right, as we just showed, a lot of folks, they start in Jira, you have an issue, and it goes through that process we just went through. So you're able to not only generate these ideas, but then I can ask chat another question to generate the acceptance criteria for each of the improvements listed above. And then when I go back to make Jira tickets now, sort of following that best practice of like, okay, this is, we're not just going to willy-nilly implement things. We'll actually go through and make a Jira ticket and follow that flow. Not only do I get, what I think is the correct, the code suggestion, but you also get the acceptance criteria. So let's say that you wanted to, make revisions to this code, but you also wanted to maintain that criteria. You could do that and still have this acceptance criteria to be validated at the end, which is really cool. It takes a lot of that heavy lifting out of coming up with new ideas and also coming up with how to know when they're correct, right? More than this just looks right or this works, which is really, really cool. So post maintaining all of this work, if it needs to go somewhere, right, that we're going to end up pushing this into production. That is the goal. So this last piece that we're going to be covering is our code review agent. Excuse me. So we will go over here and we're going to start here. So we'll start with the rules interface. And this is where you're going to be able to see predefined rules by Tabnine, as well as all of the rules that align with your unique standards will be stored here as well. As Amaya previously alluded to, Tabnine Enterprise comes with a standard set of rules that we've gathered, evaluated, and implemented based on software development best practices from leading voices in our space. But within the rule set here, you're able to or the rules interface, you're able to visualize and fine tune the rule set. You'll see that there'll be good and bad examples of each rule. You can determine which is public and on by default enabled. You can also have the ability to filter rules by severity, language, email, and ID. Now, when it comes to adding a new rule in here, what do you need to provide? All you need as a customer or a user is to just send us the rule description in plain language in an Excel sheet. Very easy, and Tabnine will ingest and create the rest. So it'll enrich each rule, adding a much more elaborate description, as well as these good and bad examples. It's also worth mentioning that all of this is, it's not concrete in the sense that you can't change it. It's able to be changed is what I'm trying to say, right? This is just a good starting point for you. So if you want to tweak the good example or the bad example for rules that you've put in there, you feel free to do so, right? Your administrator will have that ability to do so. So let's see here. If we go to adding a new rule, again, from the interface point of view, incredibly easy. You just pick your language, your rule type, right? Is it going to be for a user, or is it going to be for an entire organization? And then drop in a JSON file and create the rules if you wanted to do the manual process yourselves. Now, let's go over to the developer flow. So as an engineering manager, if you're reviewing PRs from your team, what you'll see here is when a developer makes a PR, the Tabnine code review agent will go through and review the PRMR against your rules and flag any deviations and offer suggestions to fix that code. So it'll show the flagged area or lines of code. It will give the list the rule and then provide the suggested revision. And it's I think a really, really important piece of sort of capping out capping out the SDLC, right? The ability that you need to the code review agent. It's important. What's AI code or good AI generated code if it doesn't even make it into production, right? So this is just a really, really important piece that sort of caps off this SDLC process. And even things like, it shouldn't be here, right? But, a junior mistake, but something that's really important, for example, is don't hard coding sensitive information in your code, such as API keys and passwords. That's a major no-no. But it'll flag where it is exactly and then give you the suggested revision. And then at the bottom, it's always also going to produce a Tabnine PR report. So this is going to be a high-level summary telling you everything from critical issues and how many errors, warnings, and proposed suggestions. So that at a high level is the code review agent. The last piece, not within the SDLC per se, but just covering tab 9 and what you'll see as a end user. This is going to be our admin panel. Now, for administrators, you'll be able to see high-level overviews of account usage, right? So being able to see how many users were active last week, the type of usage that they had, and slowly working more granular into actual interaction metrics, right? Chat and useful interactions, what models are sort of being used the most by your organization, and then even getting down into usage per user. There's additional team management and user management functionality, but one area I really want to touch on here before we move to QA is this settings area, right? So you're able to toggle SSO. This is also where you're able to enable the Jira connection as an administrator, as well as turning on Tab9 context. So that's that workspace context for all users that would enable that or give the ability to have that enabled for the end users. This is also where you're going to be able to see which models and determine which models are available to your organization, right? If you want to use Tab9 protected, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, so on and so forth, this is where they'll be available. And I believe that is it for my section of the demo. We've covered, the entire Tab9 UI, right? Everywhere where we interact. So going through, the agents, the code completions, the code lens, as well as the quick actions. And the inline actions, and then we've walked through each phase, right? So we've done the planning, the creating, the fixing, testing, documented, maintaining. Any other questions, we can answer them here in the QA session at the end. But I believe this is it for my portion. I think we can move on to the next area. So yeah, what's new in Tab9? So we've covered the sort of last few months for us, but the code review agent was a really recent and notable launch for us. AI agents to implement and validate Jira issues, we saw those as well, and then the inline actions, right? So that's one thing that I just want to bring up. So the ability to accept, reject, and refine those responses. We're constantly improving that, trying to improve that sort of developer flow state, right? Not having to take you guys away from keeping your hands on the keyboard. So those are, the inline actions. We added more of that refined functionality, for example, is a new piece for us. But I also see there's a question here as well. Does it only support GitHub or other SCM systems as well as like Bitbucket? Let me see here.
So Salman, for the code review agent, currently it's only on GitHub, but additional SEM systems are on roadmap, including Bitbucket and GitLab, and we'll update you soon with that information once it becomes available. However, for code-based connection, we do support GitHub, Bitbucket, and GitLab repositories already.
Cool. Well, I guess, that was, feel bad. I don't want to sound like a broken record, because I know we've really harped on a lot of these three over the course of the demo and the presentation. So we can just move firmly into the QA portion of this session. Welcome all comments and questions. I know we covered a lot of information, right? Sort of a Tabnine A to Z. I feel like if folks could, you could talk about creating or testing or fixing or documenting for an hour, each of those, right? So any questions or comments folks have, feel free to send them through.
Yep, thanks for joining us, Humberto. Yep, so I'll just share some more info. We'll wait for questions. If you're looking to get started with Tabnine, a couple different options to do that. We just released and completely revamped our completely free tier, Tabnine Basic. So that tier now has all of our available switchable LLMs. It also has all of the chat agents that we covered today, including the fix agent, documentation, code explain, and code explore agent, as well as the test agent. You also do not need to register or provide an email or anything to download Tabnine Basic. I think we have over 8.4 million downloads on VS Code alone. And Tabnine Basic also now has local context awareness enabled on it, so you can play around with that as well. And then, of course, Tabnine Pro is still available, and you can get a 90-day free trial of that. So with Tabnine Pro, you'll get increased access and usage of all the third-party LLMs, as well as be able to use our Jira agents as well and integrate with that. And if you're interested in Tabnine Enterprise, of course, just reach out to us via the contact us form, and we can get you started with the evaluation there. So it looks like we've got some comments and questions here. Looking forward to the Bitbucket implementation for the code review agent, as are we. The most common question we get when we do these is, when is Bitbucket coming? So it's coming soon.
We're all excited.
Salman, is this session recorded? It certainly is. We'll send you an email as soon as we get off here, and with a link to the recording of the session. The session recording will also immediately be posted on our YouTube channel, as well as be available on the LinkedIn event page here. Question from Adria: are the code suggestions that are corrected by the developer taken into account for subsequent suggestions? Yes. So this happens in a couple different ways. One is through the context that it's intaking from the file in your IDE and the code you're typing into there. The second way this occurs is through chat history context. So as you're providing guidance to Tabnine and feedback, it is intaking the prompts that you're inputting and refining that through chat history context for subsequent suggestions. Would you share the slides with us? Certainly, yeah, we can share the slide deck with you. Happy to do that. I'll have someone reach out to you, Salman, with that information. Question from Edgar. How is Tabnine's performance with respect to large context, i.e. code base for large code bases common with enterprise? So what you'll see here is it does very well with large code bases. And the only limitation that you potentially run into here is if you are deploying on-premise air-gapped and running Tabnine on specific GPUs. So if you're using a really large model like the Llama 64B or something of that size, you'll need to have enough compute power in your GPUs to facilitate the indexing of your code base quickly with all the requests coming in from all your users. However, if you're running VPC, of course, with that cloud option, that's not really an area of concern anymore. But yes, it handles them very well. Great. I'll just share some more info with you guys while we wait for some more questions. So there's a lot of different ways that we try to make it easy for all of you to learn more about Tabnine. One of them is Tabnine Office Hours, which is this session that you're in now, which is recurring every week on Wednesdays at either 7 a.m. PT time or 10:30 a.m. PT time on an alternating schedule every week to accommodate all of you that are on East Coast time or over in Europe and in other parts of the world. Every Tuesday as well, our product evangelist, Adrian Howard, runs a live stream called Tabnine Labs, where he executes a full application build from scratch every week. Often has guests from other companies joining him. I believe the last one he did before he went on PTO to Japan was with a developer from Cloudflare, where they built an application to rate and analyze their Halloween candy hauls. So that could be a fun way to learn more about how to use the AI. And then, of course, anytime we have a new product release or announcement or are showcasing how Tabnine works with a third-party tool, we run a Tabnine live session, which happens on Thursdays. Other things that are coming soon is by the end of the year, we're going to launch a Discord community. So stay on the lookout for that. I'll give you guys more ways to engage with other users, participate in contests. We're going to start running hackathons as well as do giveaways for swag and prizes. And you guys will be able to give us feedback on feature requests that you want to give, as well as get help with utilizing Tabnine effectively.
Yeah, you don't have to wait until Wednesday Wednesdays to talk to Amaya and myself. You can reach us any day of the week on the community. It's we're really excited to launch that.
Yeah, and then if any of you are going to AWS reInvent, Tabnine and the team will be there as well. We're at booth 1997. We are also giving away a pair of Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses every day. And to enter that giveaway, just stop by the booth and spin the wheel for a chance to win a ticket in the giveaway, or stay for a full Tabnine demo to get another ticket, book a meeting with our team to get another ticket. And yeah, lots of ways to win there. We are also running a AI hangover brunch in partnership with Sneak. So if you're interested in joining that, make sure to stop by our booth, and yeah, hopefully you get to connect with some of you in person if you're going to be attending.
And some of the cooler shirts, if I do say so myself. We might be biased, but that's Amaya's wearing an awesome one.
Metallica one. Yeah.
All right, so it's been about 5 minutes since our last question here. Do you want to give it another 30 seconds and we'll wrap things up?
Yeah, sounds good to me. Alrighty. If there are no more questions, thank you for joining us today. Feel free to stop by Tabnine Office Hours anytime you like, and hope to hear from some of you soon. I'll send you all LinkedIn connection requests, and Salman, I'll send you a recording and the slides and that once you accept the request there. And Adria will have someone reach out to follow up on your questions and talk to you about resellers in Spain that can help you out. And same to you, Ali. Looking forward to hearing more from you as well. Alrighty.